So I was born in the deep mountains of Norway, in a small village called Hovden, with 350 people living in my small village. So there's more attendees in this conference than it is people actually living in my village. And my clicker is not working for some reason. Tech people. Let's see. There we go. So, in my village, when you're 12, everyone has to take a challenge. So when you're 12, you have to go to this really scary cliff. Not a jumping board like this, but an actual cliff, an actual mountain in my village. And everyone who's 12, which is, my class was 4 people when I grew up, so all 4 of the kids turning 12 that year, showed up to do a challenge where they had to jump from a 12-meter cliff. And for my teammates, or my classmates, that was quite easy because they're not afraid of heights at all. I'm in my house, my wife are changing the light bulbs because I think heights are so scary. But anyway, I was the last one supposed to jump, and I was really, really nervous, and I stood there for like 20-25 minutes. And then I motivated myself, started running against the end of the cliff. And right before I jumped, I changed my mind, and I slipped. And I hit my side, and I had the biggest belly flop you can imagine in front of the whole village. It hurt, of course, but the worst thing was actually that I had like a big blue mark from my ear all the way to my ankle for the whole summer vacation. And that taught me a very important lesson about business that I implemented more and more when I started growing my own companies. And that lesson, and that goes for marketing, it goes especially when you're spending money on Facebook and other platforms, is that if you don't do anything like 100% commit to it, it's better not to do it, because you'll just look like an idiot if you just half-ass things. And doing this for a while, I'm tired of what I call TikTok shit kid influencers that are promising you to 10x everything with just one simple hack. Building a real business is about having a system that is predictable and is scalable. And it's hard, it's difficult, it takes time. All the overnight successes usually last for at least 10 years. So I'm not here to promise you any simple hacks of anything. I just want to tell you what I know works and are actually creating results at the moment. So if you're looking for that magic pill, I'm not here to give it to you at all. But I think I can give you some actionable stuff you can actually take with you. So this is a picture of Barack Obama just a few weeks before he took presidency. And this is also how I felt as a marketer in 2019 running ads. This is an image of Barack Obama after his presidency. And this is how I'm feeling right now at the moment as an ads expert. Tired. It takes a toll on you. It's been some rough years. So it's quite a different environment to work in, which is also fun and is also making you think of smarter ways to build your business, run your campaign, stuff like that. But for the last 4 years, my advice has always been the same. So I think it's very important that as long as your ads are profitable, you're actually making money in it, you should spend as much money as you can, because it's never going to be a time where the ads are cheaper, where the tracking is working better than right now. 4 or 5 years ago, all my clients were afraid of spending too much money, and now they feel sorry that they didn't spend 5-6 times more money because the prices were so much cheaper. It was so much easier to get results. So acquiring new customers is the most important thing you can do, and then having your own system to make sure they purchase again and that the lifetime value keeps expanding. So lifetime value is the most important thing you can have, especially in the e-com business. And what I wanted to do is just to show you our internal framework that we use. I run a small agency. We help 50 e-com stores in Norway. And it's developed over the last 7 years. So most of my time is spent talking to potential clients. And I started to see quite clear patterns quite quickly. Most people who didn't have success, didn't have growth, were struggling with spending too much time, for example, on social media. And they felt productive because they got the likes, they got the distribution, but they didn't actually get the sales. Or they didn't know their numbers or cared about their numbers, their business numbers, their profit margins, their actual revenue, all that stuff. The conversion rate was too low. I don't work with any businesses that has below 1% in conversion rate. And the content didn't really resonate with their audience. So based on this, and also doing marketing for a long time, I started making a framework so it was easier for our clients and also our team internally to implement this. And it's very common and it's very catchy to put steps after your framework title, so this is my 7 steps for you. And I want people to use it as a map. So it's not just what to do, but it's actually in terms of what to do first and then what to do next. Because people are always looking for, again, hacks, growths, and are jumping steps constantly, which is actually turning into them sabotaging themselves. So instead of focusing on everything, I wanted to just focus on one step at a time. So these are all of the 7 steps. I'll just quickly walk through them. So the first thing a store should focus on before doing anything else is making sure you have at least 1% conversion rate. Most of my clients have 3 to 4% conversion rate. But before you do anything in terms of spending any money or any thoughts around marketing, make sure that people are actually buying when they're organically hitting your site. After that, again, to be able to spend money and be profitable, you need an average order value of at least 65 euros. In my experience, it's very hard to scale things out of that. If you're selling a single product, try bundling it together, sell 2 or 3 of those instead. And when you then are going to step 3 is where you actually start spending the first money. And the first money is usually focused just on your warm audience, remarketing audiences, people who showed interest. And the whole thing is just to get some traffic into your site that, again, proves your numbers. So getting into a profitable return on ad spend, but not having really focused on growth yet. You do that over here. But the next step will then be to get those customers coming in a profitable way to spend more money through email marketing. And if you're running an e-com site, at least 30% of your revenue should come from email. I work with clients who have 40-50%, which is even better. But the whole idea here is to get people to spend again, so you can actually spend more money when you're starting to scale. Then distributing risks, getting a mix of at least 4 traffic sources. I usually, you have your Googles and your Metas and all that stuff, but trying to get other sources as well, because you will get banned or disallowed or something like that all the time. Then a good goal is to try to get at least 20% of your existing customers to spend at least 1 purchase a year. And when you hit number 7, that is when you start spending more money and putting this whole thing into test. So that is basically the 7 steps. And And the most important thing is to just do one thing at a time, just focusing on one thing at a time. So marketing basics, I've talked to a lot of you guys in the conference. I know you guys know this, hopefully. But the whole idea with marketing is to get traffic to your website and conversion value, highest possible, get more people to actually purchase, average order value, getting them to spend as much as possible. But these are the two most important metrics. So if you have a dashboard, if you just have post-it notes, just make sure that you know your number every Monday, for example, so you can watch it go up and down and focusing on getting that growth. So if 2% of your visitors end up buying, average order value is 100 euros, then 100 visitors will be worth 200 euros in revenue. So for example, on Facebook, 25 euros per sale would be then a return on ad spend on 4. In Norway, ROAS average is around 5, 6. It's quite easy to get a good ROAS. I know the US is especially hard to do that. But again, it's just to understand the whole mathematics about this and understanding your actual numbers here. So again, one thing is to understand your return on ad spend. Then you need to think about your profit. So retract VAT. Your margin is maybe 50%. So you have 40 euro profit. You pay 25 euros for the sale. You have 50 euros per sale in profit. That's how you think about it. So working with those numbers, you can actually then start playing around and figure out what you should focus on going forward from that. So, to get your conversion rate up, it's all about working on the website, average order value, upsales, bundles. One of the best ways to increase average order value is if you're selling t-shirts, on the top of your page, bundle 3, 4, 7 t-shirts at a time, for example, at the top as a bundle, works really well. If your click rate is 1% or lower, I would then focus on making better ads. And if your cost per click is too high, it's all about improving your targeting. And if you're still not profitable, you need to negotiate your prices from the people who you're buying the products from. So most online businesses that are not profitable is because they're skipping these steps and not following the framework of this. Over 60% of all the e-coms I talk to in Scandinavia are not within these metrics in terms of making it scalable. And it's getting worse and worse for a lot of the small ones out there. So I just wanted to point out 3 important changes that people need to be aware of. So first of all, probably most of you have felt this. April 2021, Apple pulled the plug for all advertising platforms. This was the most evil image I could find of Tim Cook. Generally, he's a good guy, but I think this really captures his feeling around Facebook and Google Ads. So for me, doing this for 23 years, this is actually the most dramatic change I've seen. And a lot of people are freaking out, and I think it's get your feelings out. I think it's healthy to do that, but I think it's also time to then understand the consequences and work around that. So the main 2 consequences of Tim Cook hating on ads is that the tracking is all over the place. So attribution is usually wrong, and targeting is also then much harder because Facebook are seeing much less traffic. And I want to point out that this is just not for Meta specifically, this is for all channels. And that brings me to the first kind of change you need to be aware of. Facebook is more hungry but less sensitive than before. Meaning, in our surveys, over 50% of all the data that Facebook usually got from our clients are gone. So from driving in full daylight, you're now speeding in a car at night in the fog. You're not navigating the same way you could do. So that means Facebook needs more food, more data, more time. So you need to run your tests much longer. And you also need much more broader audiences. So one of the first things our Facebook reps told us was go from 7-day or 11-day remarketing to 90-day or 180 days because they just need more target groups or bigger target groups to target. That's also a good thing for us because one of the hardest things about running ads before was, relearning the learning phase, triggering that. But Facebook is actually less sensitive to big changes now than before. So the learning phase is less important. Facebook is prioritizing that less than they did before. So you're not resetting all the learning when you make big changes in your ads or in your budgets anymore. So you can make a lot of more bigger changes, more often changes. Now we usually, if we hit our ROAS target, usually we change the budget around every third day. And we usually change it, we can bump it up 30-40% easily without triggering the learning phase, which is great. So for us, that really changed the way you could scale things, work with things. Usually you have to spend a lot more time being more, diligent in terms of how you optimize your ads without resetting the learning phase, but that's a huge one. Another point, what I think is important to just understand is the machines are taking over. And I'm not talking about Westworld. But what we're seeing is that across all, so Performance Max also on Snapchat, on Pinterest, everywhere. 2021 was the first year where the catalog campaigns actually delivered better than a website conversion campaign. So a conversion campaign is when you choose the product, the image, and the text that's going to be advertised, and the catalog is where the platform chooses instead of you. And again, what we're seeing is that the platforms are getting better than us to pick the right products to advertise for. So that was a huge shift that we saw. And again, it's a trend. But what we also see is that people are still important. So it's still important. You just can't feed everything to the machine. You have to understand the numbers. You have to understand what's going on. So you still need a marketer to guide the machines. I think it's going to be less time next 5 years spending it within like Ads Manager and more just reading the results and understanding how to navigate it. So for example, we're seeing great things with splitting catalogs into smaller categories is super effective in terms of e-commerce. Optimizing the feeds with descriptions, all that stuff is more important than ever. And of course, A/B testing everything. And we see the same trend now with our Performance Max campaigns. They're usually working really, really well. But again, then splitting up to a lot of different Performance Max based on different catalogs and different feeds also works really good. So the machines do more, but you still need a human to make sure you're optimizing it the correct way, if that makes sense. So small changes will create big differences. Brings me to the third point. It's not enough to only be on Facebook, Instagram, the Meta platform anymore. I'm still getting used to saying Meta. I think it's going to take several years until I finally say Meta intuitively. Can anyone relate to this? Yes? So you need more traffic sources. So a normal setup for me is Google and Meta, but you need at least one more traffic source that you control. That means your ads. Snapchat for us in the Nordics has been a lifesaver for a lot of our customers. When you get the Facebook slap, when Mark Zuckerberg has a bad day and it decides to just without a reason shut down your accounts, you need some sort of backup. So one thing is it's a good thing to scale from, but it's also good to have as a backup if things are not working well for you. We're also seeing now really, really good results on Pinterest. We're seeing really, really good results on TikTok as well. So do not underestimate these channels. If you have success on one of them, keep working on that, but also keep adding on more channels as you go along so you're not that vulnerable. Okay, you guys with me so far? Great. So with that in mind, with the framework in mind, and the 3 changes in mind, I think it's just a few other points I want to hit on, which I think is important. It will get much harder to measure the effect of your ads. It will be more expensive to advertise. And Facebook's moderation team will continue to be massively unstable. I don't know if you guys know this, but when the pandemic hit, Facebook totally changed the way their support system works because they had to pull everybody back from the office and to their working from home environments. So they changed it to all moderation is now run by bots or algorithms. And usually the first and second line of support is also bots. So the reason it's unstable is that unfinished algorithms are constantly making stupid mistakes. And it's hard for Facebook to train this thing. So, most of my clients are selling clothes, for example, and are getting shut down because they show too much skin because they're in a t-shirt, stuff like that, stupid things like that. So the best way we see to resolve these issues is actually just constantly bug the shit out of Facebook support until they reopen. And when they say to you that the decision is final, the decision is never final. Just keep on bugging their asses. Eventually, you're going to go through the bots, the algorithms, and get to a real human. And after a few tries, you can most likely unlock your accounts again. But this is going to continue to be a problem. So my kind of main advice here is to double down on content. I think creating good creatives, communicating clearly to your audience is really, really important. It doesn't mean you need to make like Netflix quality content. You just need to make more content and more authentic content that kind of hits your audience. I think you need to allocate more time, energy, and focus on the paid ads thing to, again, distribute risks. And you need to always make sure you're increasing the lifetime value of your customers. And never stop working on your conversion rate. If you're at least, you need to run 2 to 3 tests a month on your e-com store to just make sure you're always improving and working on this number. I just can't be clearer about it. Also, fall in love with numbers, your margins, average order value, lifetime value, all that stuff, and spread risks with adding more traffic sources. Work on the 7 steps I just gave you, and think about acquiring as many customers as possible with profit now, because it's just going to get harder. So, main strategy, buy as many customers as possible from as many sources you can as long as you break even. Focus on increasing lifetime value through email, SMS, organic social. And by doing that, you can afford to buy customers in the future when your competitors are not able to spend that much money, which I think is important. Okay, so that's my main points. But I wanted to finish with something I think is maybe the most important thing. And I picked up this specific story I'm going to share with you now 12 years ago in a dinner. And I was just so fascinated about the power of the main point of this story. Does anybody know who these 2 people are? Yes. So this is the Kennedys. John F. Kennedy, Jacqueline Kennedy. I would say, in terms of time period, these were the first time the First Lady was kind of being brought into the spotlight as someone of public interest. The First Lady before this was quite anonymous, but Jackie was an icon. She was an influencer. The clothes she was wearing were selling out. All the shades she was wearing was selling out. And if you Google Jacqueline Kennedy, you'll see the necklace here, these pearls she has around her neck, is almost present in every photo you might find of her. And this story is about Jackie's pearls. Because it was decided after she died, it was decided to auction away all her belongings to the charities that she loved. And one of the most anticipated items on the auction was, of course, these pearls. These pearls, if you look at the time period where she was active in the media, the pearl industry in the US had like this hockey stick, almost 10x in value. So the women of America was buying pearl necklaces as crazy because Jacqueline Kennedy were wearing them everywhere. So when you have an auction, you have to find the value of the item. So what they did was they flew in pearl experts from all over the world to examine the pearls and find an auction starting price. And what they decided on really, really early on, and all the experts agreed, these were fake pearls. So Jacqueline Kennedy bought these pearls long before she met John F. Kennedy for $35 in just like a crappy shop right next to her school. So first of all, fake pearls are 10xing the real pearl industry in America at this period. That is interesting. But this is the type of story that the media loves, right? So what happened is that everyone started writing about the fake pearls, Jacqueline Kennedy's pearls, and one of the ladies who read one of the stories was called Linda Price, super smart businesswoman. And she decided together with her husband that we want to invest in this opportunity, we need to win this auction. And I read an interview with Linda, and Linda said that in the morning of the auction, she knew her husband was quite similar to me. You know, if my wife wants to take me shopping, she has to feed me first. You know, I'll be really grumpy if I'm not like got a lot of food in my belly. So she got up early. She made his favorite breakfast, freshly pressed orange juice, you know, perfect eggs the way he liked it. And she also, which I never heard before anyone else do, but she ironed his newspaper to make sure he had like the perfect start of the day, right? And good meal, went to the auction started. It's a bidding war, it's legendary. And they ended up winning. And they ended up paying $211,000 for the fake pearls, which is a crazy amount of money. And something interesting happened then, because Linda overnight became a celebrity. She was the crazy lady who bought the pearls of Jacqueline Kennedy. And she started getting interviews and magazine covers and started telling her story. And in one of the interviews, she said that when the security guards brought the pearls to her office, you know, all the secretaries in the area was gathering around, and everyone could swear they can smell the perfume of Jacqueline Kennedy filling the room when she opened the pearls necklace, you know, box for the first time. So, what does Linda have now? She lost $211,000, but she has a story. So, what Linda did is that she made fake pearls. She made copies of the pearls she got. She started selling it for $200 a pop. First year, she sold over 130,000 of them, and she made over $26 million in revenue the first year. So my point is that it's not about the products we sell, but it's the stories we tell. So no matter what's happening on different platforms, no matter what you're selling, the one who gets to tell the best story is the person that wins. Okay, thank you so much.
Awesome presentation, Thomas. I'm sure the audience has some questions. Now's your time. If I want to get a hand up here, we have one there in the back.
I'm just going to grab some water.
Hi. Great presentation. I'm voting for you for sure.
Thank you.
So my question is, you mentioned that you have to be present at every channel, every platform to be successful. So how do you adjust your content? Because every platform has a different style and different target audiences. So in content-wise, it's very difficult. Usually companies just go ahead with one static image and the same word and the same content, and we see it everywhere on every platform, and it's so boring.
Yes?
So how do you manage that? Because there are so many platforms and so many places to be seen, and it's a lot of work, content-wise,
Yeah, I feel you.
editorial-wise.
Yeah, I feel you. So, in a perfect world, you'll create the perfect piece of content that is tailored for every platform, right? And truth is, if you take the time to do this, you most likely get better results than with not doing it. But, you know, with all the clients we work with, because of time, money, all these things, most people are doing as you're describing. They're just being lazy and just putting the same content everywhere. And it usually works okay. But there's a few of my clients who are just growing like crazy. And those are the people who double down on content and take that shit seriously, who are mastering. For example, TikTok is a completely different beast than Snapchat or Instagram, for example. So, you know, if you want to grow and get the best out of every opportunity, again, you need to do things 100%, and you need to spend the time that is needed. So I think the ones who are actually tailoring it to each specific platform are seeing an advantage of that. And I think that most people are just so overwhelmed with so many tasks, so many things, so many platforms, and it's impossible just for a few people to manage that. So I understand why they don't do it, but I would highly recommend, you know, doing it. But yeah, I don't have it takes time, it takes money, but usually it bears the fruits of it, so you usually get better results.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question.
Anybody else? You have another one right behind you there. There you are.
Thank you for these fantastic stories. You really reminded how important they are. But I'd like to ask about marketplaces. I know you were talking mostly about ads, but for e-commerce business, a lot of us start also, like, I mean, I'm talking that from the e-commerce owner myself. We also work with marketplaces sometimes. I don't know if you work or if your customers work with marketplaces, or maybe you have any opinion about that, like if they should keep working with them or not, because this is not the source of traffic you can control much. But often it helps you to start selling items and to get first money so you can afford ads, basically.
Yeah, so, and probably gonna get killed backstage when I come back here, but usually marketplaces, especially in the Nordic market, is not working really well. I would rather they spend, you know, a few dollars a day on paid ads platform to get the numbers they need to scale it. But when you hit a certain ceiling, you need to find new creative ways. So, you know, when you're kind of maximizing the paid channels, I would maybe look more at marketplaces. Usually what we do with our clients when they reach a certain kind of height is to go on national TV. Again, it's a great way of building brands. We see the ads get cheaper, but, you know, it costs a lot of money. Or native advertising, finding more specific websites that you can partner with over time to create deep content on. But for most of my clients, affiliate kind of deals, marketplaces is hard to get, as you're saying, predictable traffic. And you know, that's the opposite of what I want. I want predictability, I want scalability, and then I'm happy to pay for that as long as I understand the numbers and making sure I'm actually making a profit on it.
Okay, so in short, your advice is basically not to put too much attention, not to trust marketplaces too much.
Yes, sorry.
No, it's okay. And one more quick question about Facebook ads. And you said most of your customers are also dealing with clothes or textile industry. Any advice for those who are dealing with lingerie and Facebook policies for creatives?
We actually work with a few lingerie companies or shops, and you just have to be extra careful and have, quite a good communication line with Facebook on it. And I think it also helps if you're getting better results on the organic part. Usually algorithms are not that hard on striking down your ads. So if you're doing a good job on the organic part, it's much easier